Hi everyone. So I am going to be talking about reshaping data in Stata, and specifically reshaping wide data to long data and long data to wide data. And instead of trying just to describe what wide data or long data look like, I think it's easier if we just look at a sample to see what it is that we're working with. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a very small data set that I wrote for this exercise that describes tuition at several institutions here in Arizona, and that tuition is over the course of several years. And so you can see um, from the variable window here that we have four variables. We have a variable called institution, which is the name of the institution, the year, and that is the year of the academic year that tuition applies to, fall to it, which is the tuition for the fall semester. It's tuition and fees, so everything that's a mandatory expense, and then control, whether or not an institution is public or private. So let's actually look and see what this data looks like by opening up the data browser. And you can see that for institution, we've got four institutions listed here: ASU, which is Arizona State University; NAU, Northern Arizona University; Prescott College; and then University of Arizona, which is the institution where I am attending and work at. And then you can see that we have each of those institutions listed three times. And then for the year variable, we have 2011, 2012, 2013 for each of those institutions, and then a fall tuition variable. So, for example, at ASU, fall 2011, tuition and fees was $4,868, but in 2012 was $4,862. For control, this is whether it's a public or a private institution. All these are public except for Prescott College. Really, this variable is not the variable that we're going to be manipulating with this reshape, but I wanted you to be able to see what happens to other variables in the reshape process. Now, this data is in long format, meaning the repeated measures for the institution go long ways, one for each year. Now, looking at the same, really the same uh, institution, the same person, the same subject over the course of time is probably one of the most common ways that you would see um, this reshape, this long data formatted is the same subject over a period of time. But it's not always time. You might have, for this first variable, a family that you are looking at, and for the second variable, a person. So this might be, instead of ASU 2011, this could be family 1, person 1, and then family 1, person 2, family 1, person 3, and then family 2, person 1. You could also look at subdivisions within an organization, and so this could be company 1, department 1, company 1, department 2, company 1, department 3, company 2, department 1. So you can kind of see how this would be useful. Now, one of the questions that you might have is, why would I want to reshape my data? And there could be a number of reasons why you would want to reshape your data. This is obviously a very small data set, and so any manipulations that we would need to make, we could potentially do manually. I would upset my professor greatly if I said that I could copy and paste this into Excel, and then copy and paste certain things to make this into a wide format. One, my professor would kill me. Two, it takes a lot longer. Three, it introduces a whole lot of human error that you don't need to really be worrying about when you're doing your research. And so if you just use reshape instead of trying to manipulate this, you're going to save yourself time and save yourself error. Because obviously, if we had 5,000 observations in this data set, trying to reshape this data manually would be very tedious. Um, Now you want to be able to reshape it because there might be some things that you want to do that you can't really do in this long format. So for example, I might want to find the mean tuition across the 3 years. Now, I could do that with adding a by option to to some command. But there are some things that you wouldn't be able to do without reshaping this data. So let's go ahead and see what the option is for reshaping this data. It's a fairly simple command. We're going to tell Stata to reshape our data, and we want it to go into wide format. We already have it in long format, but we want it to be in wide format. So make sure that the command you're giving it is the format you want it to go to, not the format that you're coming from. Then we're going to put in the variable that we're really interested in having in a wide format instead of a long format. Now we have fall tuition in a long format, 1 line per year. We want to change fall tuition to a wide format. So I'm going to put in here fall to it, which is the fall tuition variable. Then there are two options. There's an I option, and then there's a J option. The I option is the thing that is really going to anchor that data in its wide format. And so in this case, we're looking at the institution. The institution is the thing that is consistent across the different years or the different observations of this data. The J option is going to be the variable that now becomes the indicator for the different columns in the wide format. And so I'm just going to go ahead and put this in here. It's going to be year, and we'll see what this does. You're going to see that we get some output here that says we've gone from 12 observations to 4. We've gone from 4 variables to 5. That the variable year has been dropped, and the new variables are fall to it 2011, 2012, and 2013. So let's go back to the data browser just to see what that looks like so you can get a sense of what this now wide format is. Now previously we had 12 observations. We had 3 observations for every institution. We had 3 ASUs, 3 NAUs, 3 Prescotts, and 3 U of A's. Now we only had 1 fall tuition variable, and now we have 3. So what this reshape has done is taking the year variable, which you see is gone, added it to the end of fall tuition, and then taken those observations and made columns for each year, turning this into a wide format instead of a long format. Now I told you I added this control variable just so you can see what happens, and basically what it does is it collapses all of those into that one line. Now the great thing about reshaping data is that you can go back and forth, and you can go back and forth very easily. So you might need to go from long data to wide data in order to do one manipulation, but then in order to run your analysis, go back from wide to long. So let's actually see what that looks like. And what that looks like is the exact same thing. So I'm actually just going to copy this command that we had just run into the command window, but all I'm going to do is change the wide to long. Everything else stays the same. This variable of interest stays the same, the I variable stays the same, the J variable stays the same. And so if we go ahead and run that, you're going to see a reversal here. We've gone from 4 observations to 12, from 5 observations to 4. We have added the variable year, and now we have consolidated these 3 variables into fall tuition. And if we go back to the data browser, you're going to see we have the exact same data that we had when we started. So it's very easy to go back and forth between the two. Now, one thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to reshape this back to wide. You'll see the command is reshape wide, fall to it, comma, an I variable, which is institution, a J variable, which is year. All of these are required in reshaping to wide. So let's go ahead and just reshape it to wide. Now, when we go back to reshape it to long, if we take that J statement out, it's still going to run. And what you'll see is that instead of year, we have a variable here called _j. So when you are reshaping to wide, that j variable is required. When you are reshaping to long, that j statement simply is what is naming the new j variable. And so we could get the same thing by running the command without the j and then saying rename _j to year. And so if we look at our data browser, you'll see that we have exactly what we started with. So that's it. It is a pretty simple command to be able to go from wide to long data and to go back and forth. The one thing you just want to make sure is that as any time that you are manipulating your data set, you want to make sure that you preserve your data with the preserve command or save the data set off somewhere so that you can retrieve it should you reshape it or manipulate it in a way that you are unable to undo later. So that is it for this. Hopefully this was helpful. That was reshaping wide and long.